you're speaking of Bhagavad Gita. How many have read Bhagavad Gita? Well, it's spoken at a time when Arjuna was in the greatest dilemma of his life, where he really needed healing. He just didn't know what to do. Everything around him was confusing. So he didn't just listen to Bhagavad Gita. He was like a hungry person, understanding the urgency of the need to find shelter in that knowledge and that wisdom and that grace. And essentially, that's what yoga is. Patanjali, Samadhi Siddhir Ishvara Pranidhanat. And perhaps one of the most influential yogis that the Western world has ever known. He was a bhakta, but he was teaching mostly asanas and pranayam. He was a devotee of Hanuman, actually. So we were actually really good friends. And he wrote so many books that have sold millions and millions. And we met at when he was, quite old, and he had just written his last book. And he said, Swamiji, I want you to see how I end my book. He said, this is everything in this page, everything I've been trying to teach throughout my entire career. And he gave me the book. I still have it in Bombay. He signed it and everything. He said, you don't have to read the rest of the book, but just read this page. And basically, he quotes Ramanujacharya, a great devotee, and about surrendering to the will of God, taking shelter of the Lord. And then he writes that Patanjali, the last word of all yoga, is Ishvara Pranidhanat, that we need to take shelter of the higher power of the Supreme Lord. That is what all of the forms of yoga is bringing us to do, is to take shelter. And then he said, Om Tat Sat. And that was the end. He said, this is my final statement to the world. So, we need to actually take shelter of that higher power. Because this body's going to perish and all our loved ones are going to perish. But while we're still together in this world, let us seek shelter and let us try to, unless we receive shelter, we can't give shelter. And when we think everything's under our control, we'll never go beyond that. But when we see that things are actually beyond me, then we seek shelter of that higher power that's within us. That's grace. That's where Krishna is. That's where God is. And then we seek shelter so that we could give shelter. And then the beauty of life is when we could give knowing that it's not me giving. It's a very cheap experience of enjoyment when you do something that you know you did. There's nothing very extraordinary about that, whatever it may be that you're giving. But when you realize and you experience that I'm sharing something that's beyond me, it's something that has a divine origin that I'm allowed to share, and therefore I cannot take the credit for it. I can just be grateful. Then we experience the glory of actually receiving love and giving love. Because love is real love is beyond the ego. It's transcendent to the ego. It's a higher power than our own minds and senses. But we need to take shelter of that love and give the shelter.